Nancy immediately understands the situation. Todd and Marlene Manning have been kidnapped. Dun 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 dun. What do? You rescue the Mannings yourself. That's what you do, Nancy Drew. With Bess, Nancy silently moves away from the crevice until she's sure the men inside can't hear them. Go back to George, then both of you ride around to the front of the cave and make a lot of noise, she whispers. You want them to see us? Bess sputters. I want you to play innocent and distract them. I'll do the rest. Yes, a distraction. Good plan, Nancy. With a soft moan of anxiety, Bess hurries down the hill as Nancy makes her way back up. She creeps quietly along the base of the boulders, then dropping to her knees, she peeks around the edge. And we have the Scrub Oak collectible. Nice. Below her, she sees 5 horses tied in the sparse shade of a spindly scrub oak. Sitting on a rock nearby is the 3rd young man. Suddenly, he stands up, alarmed. Nancy ducks back behind the boulder. Then, she too hears something. Nancy! Bess and George are clopping around the base of the hill, leading Nancy's horse and calling loudly, Nancy! Nancy, where are you? Nancy quickly returns to the crack in the rocks and listens as the 2 men in the cave react to the voices. What the heck's going on out there? Says one. The other gestures towards their captives. Get them further back. Make sure they're out of sight. As the first man leaves the cave, his accomplice pulls the helpless couple deeper into the shadows. Then, satisfied they can't be seen from below, he moves towards the entrance of the cave. Seeing this, Nancy quickly pulls out her pocket knife, unfolds it, then climbs into the narrow fissure. Fighting to maintain her footing between the slanting rocks, she slowly approaches the couple. Hey, you up there, she hears George yell. Oh, it's you! Hi! Your horse didn't run off again, did he? No, the man who is sitting near the horses answers. Our team's just taking a break. The 3rd man glances at the Mannings, then saunters out of the cave. As the voices continue, Nancy quickly reaches the couple, and with a whisper of reassurance, starts cutting the tape which binds the woman's wrists. Well, this time one of our horses spooked. Yeah, he ran away with our friend, George improvises. Just took off through the brush at a dead gallop. We finally found him, but we can't find her. Her hands now free, Marlene Manning rubs her wrists while Nancy helps her husband. Then, their eyes on the men standing on the hillside below, the 3 creep towards the mouth of the cave. Have you seen her by any chance? Nope, one of the men calls back. Ain't seen or heard nothing. Sorry. Well, how about helping us look for her? George persists. Yeah, could you please? Bess whines. Can't, the man responds. One of my friends here is feeling kind of woozy. Too much sun or something. Need to stay with him. Nancy and the Mannings have reached the horses. As they untie them, Nancy glances at the man closest to them on the hillside. Her eyes widen with alarm when she sees that he's turning in their direction. What do? Do you run from the bad guy, or do you run straight into the bad guy? If you decide to run away, you're going to get a bad ending, so let me show you what happens if you run from the bad guy. Run! Nancy yells to the others as she takes off down the hill. But Marlene Manning, only halfway into the saddle, goes flying to the ground when her horse spooks at the sudden commotion. Her husband turns away from his horse to help her. He pulls her to her feet, but before they can run, they find themselves surrounded by the kidnappers. Nancy reaches the horse Bess holds for her, swings into the saddle, and with the 2 cousins gallops back into town. They alert the sheriff, who immediately organizes a search party. Early the next morning, the Mannings are found wandering the desert, thirsty and exhausted, and $2 million poorer. The kidnappers are never caught. From then on, the once outdoorsy, adventure-loving couple live in fear, rarely leaving their homes, surrounded by bodyguards when they do. Lives forever changed, and not for the better. Nice try, but it didn't quite work out. So apparently, when you're trying to get away from kidnappers, don't scream extremely loudly when you're very close to the kidnappers. Otherwise, they're going to notice you. Yeah, the kidnappers are going to notice you if you scream very loudly when you're right next to them. Good to know, good to know, good to know. Let's run into the bad guy. But you have to help us, Bess is saying. Our friend could be hurt. She's very delicate. Nancy rams shoulder first into the man's midsection, knocking him backwards. With a yelp of surprise, he finds himself tumbling down the hillside, over rocks, through bushes, and into a bed of prickly cacti. Hearing the commotion, the two other men spin towards the cave. The Mannings jump on their horses and scatter the men's horses by yelling and waving. Amid the chaos, one of the men spots Nancy as she runs towards Bess and George. Furious, he goes after her, but George rides directly into his path and stops him short. "Oh no, you don't!" George cries. No matter which way the man turns, he finds George's horse in front of him, keeping him at bay like a calf in a cutting contest. Nancy has ample time to grab her horse from Bess and mount up. "George, come on!" Nancy shouts. George turns her horse and takes off at a gallop after Nancy and Bess. The three soon catch up with the Mannings and slow their horses to a trot. Nancy scans the desert behind them, but there's no sign of the kidnappers. I think we're okay," Mr. Manning gasps, catching his breath. We gave their horses a pretty good scare. Should take them a while to round them up." He turns to his wife. "Are you okay, darling?" "Yes," she nods, also catching her breath. The woman turns to Nancy with a smile of gratitude. "Thanks to you. Who are you, anyway? And shouldn't you be wearing some kind of costume with a cape?" "Super Nancy!" Nancy Drew, the world's greatest superhero. The group returns to Tumbleweed and rides straight to the sheriff's office. Upon hearing their story, the sheriff has the Mannings give detailed descriptions of the three men to a deputy and arranges for a sketch artist to drive over from Phoenix that afternoon. "Those men have a satellite phone," Nancy warns, "so they don't really need their horses to escape. The man who dropped them off at the starting line is probably picking them up right now." "I got a pretty good idea where the cave is, and you can identify those fellas, too, so come on." He grabs a map and strides to the door. "You're coming with me." Nancy and a deputy quickly get into the sheriff's car. Two more deputies pile into a second car and follow the sheriff onto the highway. Bess and George, standing in some shade with the horses, watch them go. The sound of galloping hoofbeats and happy shouts draws their attention to the parking lot across the street. The three girls from Black Creek Ranch pass beneath a banner which reads "Finish," pulled their sweaty horses to a stop, and exchanged victory high fives. Bess regards the scene with a frown of disgruntlement. "Looks like the dudette won." "They won a scavenger hunt, Bess. We saved two people's lives." But soon George too finds the scene across the street annoying and adds, "Next time, they'll eat our dust."